All right, here we go. We're doing a little bracket prediction here for the upcoming PBA doubles. I'm not even sure where that place is at, where they're having it at. That don't matter. Anyways, so let's go through this. Kind of go through this together and see what I think is going to happen. So I pulled this up, got this saved here. So you got the left side and you got the right side, and yeah, go through these teams. Yeah, I'm not too sure where they came up with their seating and however they worked it out. I'm sure it's online somewhere as far as how they did the seating. So let's go through this together. So we'll just start top left. Top left is easiest to remember. So, we got EJ and Marshall. I'm not too sure if I know these guys. Clark, Colcard. I'm just going to give this automatically to EJ and Marshall here. So let me put this in, and they are team one. Let me go a little bit bigger. All right, so here we've got Keiko and Roberts, Russo, and I think it's Mitch Pate. I'm not sure. I wish they had their first names because I don't know all the first names. So here we'll just do this. Just trying to make this easy here for myself. I'm going to go with Russo and Pate on this one. And this one's going to be, I think, a little bit easier. I think, Prather and Anderson are going to take this pretty easily. We'll see. There's a couple of caveats here. We don't really know how this is all going to play out. Left side, right side, as far as who's got the advantage. Let's just kind of assume, at least for the sake of going through this bracket, that they're even, left and right. So we'll do that. We'll just assume that they're going to be even. This one to me, I just don't, I don't see how there's any scenario where, Cameron and Stubler are going to be able to take Eddie and Dio out. I just don't see any scenario, where that's going to play. So this is a pretty easy one to pick. At least I think so. I mean, the only way that that these guys knock off Eddie and Dio is if it's low scoring and somehow these guys have some something something to some little trick to overtake. But this is lefty on lefty. And I just think the way Eddie's bowling right now, and Dio's been holding his own. I think he had a pretty decent Masters. Dio feels like he's been holding his own, but we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. So let me see. So Bonta gets Bonda and Rock up against Nate Garcia and Julian Salinas. I think, even though Bonda had the great start, Nate's been bowling pretty well and Julian's been bowling pretty well. So I'm going to go with these guys. Probably not a popular pick, just because Brandon's been bowling so well, but I just feel that the hot hand is going to take it. And that to me feels like Nate and Julian. So we got Ogle and Rash. I think I'm just going to go with that just out of experience. Then we kind of get to a little bit more interesting. We got Lupe and Packy up against AJ and TJ. I know the popular pick's going to be AJ and TJ, but I just think that if all things are equal, left or right, I don't, it's probably going to be on a fresh pattern. So maybe Packy may see something, hopefully get something early and is able to figure it out, kind of, I'm not even sure how many games are bowling or whatever. I'm sure it's more than a one game roll here, but I think if I read it correctly, it was like some kind of Baker thing, but I don't know how many games. But I'm just going to go with Hoop and Packy. Grandpa, and I think that's Bill O'Neill, right? And I'm just going to go with that. Just, I'm not too sure what the two guys there are doing. Maybe it's my own ignorance. So here we come over here. Got Boog and Kevin Williams. They're traveling mates. They're part of the house crew there. That you see online. I think Mitchell, which I don't even know which Mitchell that is, but I'm going to go with Boogs, because he's hot. And if all things are equal, hopefully Kevin can hold his own there. And let's see here. So we've got Evan, and then up against Chris Vine and Tang. Yeah, I just don't see how these guys are going to take over Vine Tang. I just don't see a scenario of that happening. There's no real advantage, that anyone has here, but I got to go with the hot hand, and both Chris Vine and Darren Tang are bowling pretty well. Now we got the Barnes. So there's nothing here that's going to take this away. I can't imagine, if Ryan and Chris don't win this match, something weird happened. And then here we got Kyle and Jesper, and yeah, I'm just going to go with those guys. I got Simon Barrett. Yeah, I'm going to take them. That's pretty easy. Then we have this team, Wilkins. I can't remember his first name, and Chapman. Is that another AJ Chapman? I think it was. But I just don't, I think Spencer's, just bowling way too well right now. And he's going to carry whoever he's with. And Jake Peters or something. I'm going to go with Spencer on that one. And then you got Foy and McCune up against Knowles and Butters. All things being equal, I think that, because Knowles, I'm pretty sure is lefty. He's got to figure something out. I know Butters can kind of carve his own path to the pocket. I don't know. I kind of feel that McCune and Foy's games are different. I don't know if they'll be able to play off of each other. Man, this was a toss-up. I'm going to go with Butters. I'm going with Butters. That's it. I think actually my initial assessment was not. I'm going to see, because I did this a couple of hours ago and I wanted to kind of let it sit and percolate. And so far I haven't changed from a couple of hours ago. Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I know Dombrowski's been bowling pretty well. But Brad and Kyle, you gotta go with them, right? You just gotta go with them. So that's my first pick for right now, my first round pick, and let's see how I do. I'll be curious to see. I think they start on Thursday. So, anyways, I'm not going to put the next round in. I'm just going to go with this as far as the first round and see. Maybe a little bit of prediction. Are they going to let them play? Pretty sure it's a Baker format, so let me kind of go through this one more time. EJ and Marshall, Russo and Pate. Yeah, I think I'm pretty firm with that one. Prather obviously has got some confidence, and him, not winning that title match, $299. That's a tough one. I think that when you lose a title match like that, your natural inclination, your confidence level is actually still pretty high. Not the same as winning, but your confidence level is pretty high just because, yeah, some guy just, you know, shot 299 at you. And, unless you shot like 160 or something like that. But, I think Prather's confidence levels is pretty high. I expect him to bowl well. Again, kind of back to Eddie and Dio. I think both of them are bowling well. I don't really have much. I don't think that Cameron and or Crow and Stelber really have much to play off of each other. They're two different games. So I don't know if they're going to be able to help each other, but who knows? We've got Brandon and TJ Rock, right? But I think Nate's bowling too well, or I think he's bowling well. I think Julian's bowling well. That's going to stay. Ogle and Rash, kind of going with that, just out of experience. I think those are seasoned guys, and I think their ball shape is probably within the same range, similar range, and I think that they can help each other. Hoope and Packy, they'll I just think that they're going to be better prepared. Just I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of hopefulness on my part. Maybe I don't have a good justification. Going up against AJ and TJ. I think TJ had a couple of good tournaments. Recently. I don't know where he's at physically, if his body's holding up or not. Fawn O'Neill, I think that's we're just going to go with that. Yeah, I think I'm sticking. I think I'm sticking with my picks here. Can't imagine anything really changing. So, yeah, I like what I see. I like what I see so far. I'm going with it. All right, guys. Well, anyways, let's uh let's see how I do. At least for the first round. I think I'm going to come back and do another video for the following round. But let's see how I do.